I have always been very close to my papa, but most people know him as Keith Creaser. Keith has lived a pretty interesting life. He has some awesome stories. So instead of writing a boring old book, as a present to him, I created this video of him telling different stories from over his years. What is your favorite memory of your parents?
One of the funniest memories is as four guys and a very small backyard, as you know, there by the well. We used to set up a baseball diamond there, and we used to play baseball. And we used to knock that window open there in the porch, right behind. That was home plate there. Against and we always knocked the window out.
Yeah.
The ball was on, and I never forget. Dad comes off the boat, and as he goes past the hardware store, he picks up a pane of glass, and the first thing we see him, when he comes into the house with a pane of glass under his arm, because he knows that he's got a window pane to repair. Because we used to be awful hard on the windows with playing baseball. Should I tell you the story about when I dumped Billy in the well? We had one of these, like a bucket on the end, and we had rope on it, and that's how we used to get our water. We didn't have running water. When I was, Billy was...
Pumps didn't exist.
No. Billy was 2 or 3. Now I was probably 9 or 10. And Mother says, go get water. So I take the ball, and Billy toddles after me, and we both go to the... See, there was a building. There was a little shed, not a shed, but a structure in that well. The well box that we got there, and there was this thing that you wound up, and that's how you put your bucket down. And it was pulley like, but you wound it up like this. So, and you dropped the bucket down, and you filled up the bucket, and you pulled it up, and then you dumped it into your pail that you had for the house. So I dumped the pail. Billy was right beside me, and looking down over because of the note, and he's looking down over, and I'm pulling this thing up, and all of a sudden it slips out of my hand, and the bucket drops down and splashes on the water, and Billy is clapping, and this is fun, and it was a 3-year-old, I think it was a 3 or 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll do that again for him because he kind of likes this. So I did it again, and he claps and howls, and it was really nice. So I did it again, but the next time I done it, he reached out and grabbed the rope, and when I let it go, down and well he went. Well, you know what happened to me? I kind of problems remembering this. I shouldn't be telling you this.
That's okay.
So I'm screaming and yelling by this time, and fortunately, my next door neighbor, not Keith, because Keith was killed in the war. Albert Mosier heard me, and he come running over, and I'll never forget. I looked down, and here's Billy on his back, and every time he kicked, he'd go under, and then he'd come back up again, and with that, Albert come over, and he looked down, and all he did was he tied the rope tight, and he skinnied down the rope and grabbed Billy, and hauled him up, and that's how they got him up. And he was unconscious at the time, but Gladys once again and Albert, they rolled him over a barrel, and they gave him artificial respiration, and he come around. And by that time, I was in the house. I was struggling to get up. So I get all these jobs lined up. It's 1949, the servicemen are just all back. And that's why one of the reasons why we couldn't really get a decent job in Halifax, because all the servicemen were coming back and they were taking the jobs, and rightly so. There was no animosity, but that they just fought a war.
Right.
And they were just coming back. But anyway, so I look at the Toronto Telegram or the Star or something like that, and I see all these things, and I marked out all the jobs that I was interested in applying for. So I went downtown on the bus and on the streetcar and whatnot.
The subway didn't exist back then.
No, there was no subway. Anyway, I went down and I went to all these interviews, and they would say, "Okay, son," they took all the resume and whatnot. You didn't have really a written resume; you were just interviewed, sort of thing. And they said, "Okay, we'll call you." So I had 3 interviews or something like that, and I thought, "Oh, no problem at all. I'll go home." So I went home. I waited 2 or 3 days and I heard nothing. The old kid from Maritime smartened up pretty fast. The next time I went down, I said, anybody that said I'll call you, I said I wasn't interested in the job at all. Well, I didn't tell them, but I just said I didn't. I just crossed them off, and I kept going to other places. And I had 3 jobs lined up at that time, and I had 3 permanent offers to start tomorrow. If I wanted
Because
to.
you just kept going and going until you had
Yeah,
offers.
I wasn't going to take this nonsense about I will call you. I'll call you. It was like I said I'm going to decide. And I had 3 jobs lined up, one in the bank and one with a leather company and one in the insurance company. And I picked the insurance company.
Why?
I don't know why.
How did you meet Nanny?
Oh, that was funny. And so finally one time, I think Dick Bell, Robinson, Mike Sullivan, and the 4 of us coming out of our company, and we were back and forth. We were only what, 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old, or whatever, I don't know. And we were horsing around and whatnot. And somebody said something. This lady come out of another office building, and she had a bundle of mail in her hand, and she run across the street, and Dick run up and hauled the lid about and dumped it in, and she said thank you. And by that time he said something about, "Hey, Creaser, you should have done that," or something like that. And so she immediately turned her head and looked at me. And I said, "Hey," she's giving me the eye. And she run across the road, and then she just run across the road. And I said, "Hey, nice legs. What do we say, fellas, huh? She wasn't too bad, huh?" So anyway, that was it. That was it. And the next day, I had to make a phone call to Scadia, this reinsurance company, and Miss Hole gets on. And she said, "Oh, Mr. Creaser." She says, "I saw you yesterday." I said, "What are you talking about?" I really picked my... And I said, when did you... And then she related this incident. I said, "Oh, is that right? Then I put that in the back of my mind, and I thought, went on with the business. So finally, this was bugging me. This girl was kind of interesting. She looked... So the next day or a couple of days later, I phoned up, and I said, "Miss Hole." It was all Miss Hole and Mr. Creaser. "What are you doing for lunch?" She said, "Oh, I brought my lunch." I said, "Put it in the wastepaper basket." I said, "You're going to lunch with me." And I'm sitting there waiting for her, and she tells this story a little different. She walks up to me and she says, "Your mouth dropped." This beautiful blonde. We had lunch and had a nice conversation, and I found out she lived in North York, Willowdale, and I lived in Scarborough, and I thought to myself, I don't have a car, and I thought, nice girl, but you're too far away for me to date. So finally, we sort of kept... But anyway, we sort of kept in touch. We sort of kept in touch, and was talking on the phone, and an occasion came up that I asked her out to something, and we went out into a movie or something, or a dance, I don't know what it was, and anyway. And then within a short period of time, I had to move from Scarborough, so I moved to Young and St. Clair, and it was right on the bus line to Willowdale. Good. That started it. I used to go by bus up the... And I don't know how many times the bus line stopped. By the time I took her home, and sitting around having a conversation, sitting outside on the bench outside the house. But and then I'd miss the bus, and then I'd have to hitchhike. But there was no alcohol at our wedding.
Really?
No, and I went around to the boys, I had a lot of buddies that played poker. We drank a few beers and got into a little trouble now and then. But I went around to all my buddies and said, we're going, it's on me. I said, this is on me. I said, meet us at, I forget now, the pub that it was. I said, after the wedding, after the reception, you know, the reception was in Thornhill at this fancy place up there, you know, no liquor or anything, and we were all dying for a beer, including me. And so we all got together, about 10 of us, 10 or 15 of us, and their girlfriends. We all met, and I picked up the tab. And then they had this goddamn. I had a little Austin A55, you know, or an American or a British car. Austin A55, little blue car, and they had that goddamn thing crayon and painted. Well, it was crayon. It was crayon all over the windshield and all over the back, and they had cans tied to it. And, you know, and when we drove off, it was rattling like mad. Well, I only got one block, and I got out with my cut the string on, threw it in the gutter. Off we went. We won hockey. We won all kinds of stuff in hockey too, and I haven't even got a hockey. You know, I was an adult at that time. Well, I was 17, 18, 19, and we won the senior championship 2 or 3 times. But I haven't got really anything to show for it. That's the only thing that I am, and I've played hockey more than anything. I played hockey until I was 30 or something. And then when I stopped hockey, I had to have something to do, so I took up curling. And curling, I was more successful at curling than anything. But Carolyn was a good curler. She went to the nationals. I never did get to the nationals.
Did you both start curling at the same time?
No, she curled a little bit earlier because she curled, even when the kids were small, because we lived right 3 or 4 blocks from the Tam Heather, you know, there at Kennedy Road in Shepherd. We were at Birch Mountain Shepherd. You probably can't remember those, but and she used to go, and they had a babysitting facility there, and the ladies used to go. Her and Joan Wiseman, and the girls in our area, because we moved into an area that was all young parents. We all had young kids. And we all grew up like Tom Greenwood. Shirley, I think, probably, I don't know if Shirley went with them or not, but anyway, they had a babysitting service, and they used to babysit them, and they used to curl for 2 hours and pick them up and come home.
Nice.
So Carolyn, and then we both joined the new club when the Tam Heather burnt down.
What's your favorite thing about living in Waterloo?
Being this close to my family. That's pretty obvious. No. I sometimes think your mother puts herself out a little bit too much for me. You don't have to. She's got a. You people have your own. You have a life to live. I don't like to impose on people. I've lived all my life. You know my past.
Yeah.
On my own, or but it's the best move I ever made. What would I do if I was in Lakeville? With what I've you know, with my past.
Maybe just fish a little bit more.
Well, I would fish a little bit more, and I would golf a little bit more, because I'm not. See, I come down here, I don't know any golfers, you know, except Leanne and Brian. And I think Leanne and Brian sometimes maybe go golfing when just to sort of accommodate me, but I know they like to golf. But see, the big difference in here in Lakeville, the only difference, well, the big difference is I had so many friends in Lakeville for 22 years, and golf, I could golf every day with somebody, because I was a member of the club. I knew everybody, and I could go golfing whenever I wanted to. Down here, I come down. I have no friends really. I'm not too concerned about that. But then COVID sets in.
Yeah.
And why you can't do anything.
No.
So, like with your mom and dad away, I mean, I'll go off golfing because I'm gonna just go and join up with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But it was certainly time for me to make the move. And it's great being this close. I mean, what the hey.
Yeah, you get to see your great granddaughters a lot.
Well, not a lot, but I do get to see them on quite a regular
You
basis.
see them more than you ever saw Melissa or I.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right because you were so far away. I mean, when we came down here, we'd always be on the weekend because it was 3 hours here and 3 hours home. But I could also walk over to Melissa's any time. You know.
Hey, Papa, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about going back to Nova Scotia?
Oh, shit, that's a tough question because when you're born and raised someplace, what is the best thing? The best thing is, well, seeing your family is one of the best things, of course. You know, we were uh, we were so far away from each other, but we were always a close family.
So it's just going back to see family?
Growing up, we the kids, we always got back every second year
Yes.
for a couple of weeks. But since I retired, I've been there every year, sometimes twice a year.
Yes.
Sometimes not at all.
In the last 2 years, you're absolutely right. No, but it's for me. It's to see the place. It's the old hunting grounds. What you used to do. I love walking the beach. Not just the beach, the shoreline, because we used to walk the shoreline a lot. Pick up all kinds of what we call flotsam. Stuff from ships that were dumped overboard and stuff that was from shipwrecks, and we found all kinds of stuff, and you find all kinds of lobster pots that have been destroyed by storms roll up on the beach. We used to have, Harry must have miles and miles of rope that he took off lobster pots, and there's good rope. And then the buoys, well, we call them buoys down here. Up here we call them buoys. The buoys, Harry had a shed full of buoys at one